I'm Jessica Fuller, and I'm an art book editor. I was unofficially recruited by a finance company while I was finishing up my master's degree. So I said, what the hell, I'll move to New York City, try this job in the finance world. It took me quite a while to adjust to what I call the culture of boy in that industry. They were constantly playing pranks on each other and on us. Shaving cream on phones, signs on people's backs, staples in chairs where you can't see them. I learned a few months into the job that the guys on the floor, and I was only one of maybe 2 or 3 women on the floor at this time, they had developed an alert. When I came into work to sit at my desk, one of the first guys that I would walk by would check me out and then call down to the rest of the guys on the floor, thong alert. And they were determining that I was wearing a thong through my business clothes, and this was just simply this game that they would play on a nearly daily basis. I realized that no matter how hard I worked or how good I was at my job, there was always going to feel like there was this barrier there. One of the aspects of the job is to take out your clients, take out the traders. One night we went out, there were a few of us who went out with one of our clients, and dinner was just about finished, and the client got up to use the restroom. One of my colleagues said to me, he's really into you. And I said, that's great, I appreciate that. And he said, why don't you just go home with him tonight? I just said, excuse me? And then my colleague said to me, what's the big deal? And I got up and I walked out of the restaurant. It really solidified for me that there was always going to be this incredible divide. It was embarrassing and humiliating, but more that it was done so casually, it was said so casually. There was no person that I could go to. I just felt incredibly alone in my problem. I felt like what they really wanted me to do was just suck it up.
My name is Lauren Anderson, and for nearly 29 years I was an agent with the FBI. I retired out of the New York office as an assistant special agent in charge. I can remember back when I was 11 years old, my parents took us on the proverbial trip to Washington, D.C., and one of the things we did was one of the most sought after tours, and that was to tour FBI headquarters. And I can recall listening to the tour guide intently. At one point I raised my hand and I said to him, can girls be FBI agents? And he looked at me and he said, no. And I said, why not? And he said, because girls would spend all their time painting their nails. When I got into the FBI, and all I could think of was holding my appointment letter and saying, where is that tour guide now? Because I'm going to show him just about girls becoming FBI agents. And so it's been an amazing career, incredible experiences. I ran all the international terrorism investigations for the Joint Terrorism Task Force here in New York. Prior to that, I had a position that prepared me well for working in a task force environment because I ran the FBI's office out of the American Embassy in Paris, France. I was the first woman to hold that position. So in addition to being the first woman running the office in Paris, I was the first woman ever for the FBI to be covering countries in Africa. I initially applied for an overseas position to go to our office in Amman, Jordan. I feel like I can work in the Middle East. It will be challenging, but I can do it. And everyone agreed. So I applied for the position, and the way it works in the FBI is there's an internal competition that goes on, and then a board makes the decision on who the best qualified candidate is. And I found out that the board had selected me and said, there's 8 people in contention for this position, and Lauren's the best one for the job. And I was incredibly excited about the possibility, and then all of a sudden I didn't get it, and I didn't understand what happened. And I spoke to a couple of my male colleagues who have been very supportive, and one of them told me that he had actually received a call from an individual at FBI headquarters who said, well, Lauren's the candidate, she's the pick of the board, but we're really not so sure we should put a female agent in the Middle East. And I thought, okay, I'm going to give it another try, because I found it hard to believe that the organization that I loved and still love would have made that kind of a decision about somebody and about a post in 2000. We're not talking 1968. So I applied for Cairo, Egypt, opening there to run that office. The same exact thing happened. The board selected me as the candidate. It again went into the director's office. Similar sorts of questions arose. So after that, another male colleague who was in the international operations area called me, and he said, you have to do something about this. And it's not right, because you belong in the overseas program. you've got the skills, you've got the interest, and I never thought I'd be in the position of having to file an EEO complaint. I went through the process because I thought it was important for other women. I feel personal responsibility to stand up and say, it's not right, and you need to consider how you're looking and thinking about things. And my own experience when I was selected for the position in Paris, I felt that that was a good thing. And in that same time period, they selected a woman to be an assistant legal attaché in Islamabad. So we were getting traction. And there are now, I'm just delighted to say, there have been women running offices in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia, and other parts. It's come a long way. And so to me, that's a success. And for me to take something that was a horrible, horrible period of my life and have such an incredible experience come out of it. I have a wonderful 9-year-old girl. It is what I say to her over and over and over again. You can be anything you want. You can do anything you want. There are no limitations. You are your only limitation.
Hello, my name is Esmail Ahmed. I am an engineer by profession, and I am the founder and CEO of Plum Perfect. A couple of years ago, I was pregnant with my first child and only child. I had a difficult pregnancy, and it was also the time that Plum Perfect was getting off its feet, and we needed to raise funds. So I became a part of an accelerator/incubator program for startups. We got to pitch in front of investors. A couple of days before the big pitch, I was pulled aside by some of my advisors. They spoke honestly to me and said, perhaps it may be best for me to wait for another year before I gave the pitch, because everybody in the room, all of the investors, would wonder about my pregnancy and how I was going to manage the startup and manage their funds. I didn't even think about it. I just assumed that people would know that I had a plan. The thought that being pregnant was going to hinder me from doing that was a sad reality check. I said no, to my advisors. I understood that they meant well. I said this to them. I felt like I already had 3 strikes against me. I'm a woman, I'm Black, and I'm pitching a tech company. So I went ahead and I gave my pitch. You literally could see when I walked into the room the shock on everybody's face that, oh, she's pregnant. I felt helpless. Clearly being pregnant wasn't something, there was nothing I could do about it. I also felt sad because I had very, very well-meaning friends and advisors to tell me something that they felt was to my benefit. But in doing that, they exposed a hurtful reality of what it is like to be a woman of a certain age, of a childbearing age, running a startup company. I did not get funded from that round of pitches, but I got funded by Golden Seed and also VC Fund. I think it is tougher for women in the tech business. And sometimes I go to a meeting and my marketing director has to, when people approach us, they talk directly to one of my coworkers, either my marketing director who is a white female, or one of my engineers who is an Asian male, right? I've gotten so used to that, honestly. It doesn't faze me anymore. I just let it slide and just get down to business. It's tough. Know that it is tough to go out there and raise funds. Know that it is tougher for women, and as a result, you have to work twice or 3 times as hard. It's the reality.
Hi, my name is Andrea Chang, and I'm the Director of Marketing at a digital media startup. This was actually in my first job out of college, and I had been recruited into investment banking at a bulge bracket bank. I'm really excited to start my new job. I was the only woman in my group. This particular case happened with a more senior person at the company. At first, he was really nice to me. I thought, oh, how nice. And then I started to realize that he was attracted to me and wanted to ask me out, and started sort of dropping those hints. First job out of college, thought it was very inappropriate and didn't want to go down that path, and sort of turned him down. Afterwards, he basically made my life miserable. I mean, there's no other word for it. If we worked together, he would yell at me all the time. You know, he made me cover up for him at work. I used to cry every single day at work because I was so miserable. I kept on thinking, what was wrong with me? Am I smart enough? Am I hardworking enough? You know, is this something about me or my personality that is provoking this type of treatment? Actually, at the end of the year, we had a review process, and I was top of my class out of the whole nation. That made me realize that this has nothing to do with my abilities, but I was so insecure. This insecurity has unfortunately followed me for years down my professional career path. In every situation that I run into professionally where I hit a roadblock, I think back and I'm that girl again. I actually only realized this because a very good friend of mine told me about her situation at work. And it's important because when you hear someone else's story, it strikes a chord.